Alright, I got everything back together here, and this is for the test. For these wires that I had cut, I spliced those together. I'm going to solder those after it all works. I'm just going to slip some heat shrink over there. And if this all works, I'll solder these and and wrap it up. So got everything together, got the high voltage lead back into the picture tube well, and the PC board for the CRT drive, that's in place. I was real careful putting that on. To put that on, you just you drop it on so it just drops on the pins, and there's a keyway there that helps you find it, and then you just push it straight down, real careful, straight down. And I use my pictures to put in that connector down in there. It's the one way in the back, because and this one too, because sometimes these connectors could go on two ways. So that's all in. So I'm gonna put the back on temporarily and flip it over and see if it works. Alright, got it together. Put the back on temporarily because when I flipped it, I didn't want to hurt the picture tube or break it or implode it. Let's put the back on temporarily. I'll plug it in. This is real time, kiddies. Get in there. Alright. Let's turn the light down. Okay. I'm going to turn it on. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Here it is. Yep. Did it go on? Did it go on? Well, when I turned it on, it wouldn't power up, and that was the original problem that had it like when it was in the living room. So I don't know, it's something else besides that relay. And I did check all the connections and solder connections. So when it worked, when I plunked it on the workbench initially, that was a fluke. And now when I turn it on, the new relay clicks, but it doesn't power up. So I have to examine it some more, but I have to take it out. I'm going to resolder some of these connections. This connection here, this involves the power. I haven't touched it yet, but this looks like, I don't know if that's making good contact. So I'm going to resolder that, and I'm going to resolder this on where the power cap is. Looks like maybe that could be intermittent, so I'm going to resolder that. And I'm just going to closely inspect these again. Maybe I can hit that one there. Looks like that could be resoldered too. Alright, got everything back together again. These electrostatic ground here goes to the board for the drive there. So everything's back in as it should be. So we're going to try it again. I touched some of the solder connections up that were for like going into the power supply area. So some of them looked a little questionable actually. So maybe that solved the problem with the power up. I almost forgot the anode there. Got to plug the anode into the well. Now remember, kids, when you don't do this at home. This is just for entertainment purposes only. But this all has to be discharged properly if you want to take this thing apart. But I just mentioned it just for entertainment value. Yeah, this is a killer. See, this is what it was doing before. The relay's clicking. You hear the little in the speaker, but it won't power on. So this is what it was doing before. And the reason it worked before was that we plunked it on the workbench, and it worked. It was like a fluke. So I don't see what's doing that. And I want to see if those capacitors I put in will fix the vertical linearity. I can't do that because it won't power up. It's funny. Huh. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, it's not powering up, but part of this set is powering up because it did charge the picture tube up. So the high voltage is working. I didn't notice that before with initial problem, but I could have just missed it, because it wouldn't power up. But I think that the high voltage is definitely working because the pitch tube I felt it charge up electrostatically. So the rest of the set isn't powering up. So I assume it's something in the power supply. I have to look into that a little further. A little bit further, kids. Okay, to troubleshoot this thing, we gotta be like a detective, and we gotta try to figure out what we got and what we don't got. So I just wanted to mention that for the relay here, we definitely got the voltage to turn it on and off because it will click on and off. And here's the relay drive, and this takes 12 volts to kick it on and off, so we know we got that 12 volts. And I know that when I try it with the remote control, it will the relay will click on and off for the remote control. So I know that we have like the standby voltage for the 5 volts. There's the 5 volts, and it goes where those chips are for the standby. So we know we got that. We know we got the 5 volts for that to work with the remote control. So we know we got that much. And this is the flyback here. Flyback transformer. In England they call it the line output transformer. I was reading about those. The LOPT they call it. And in America they call it, or United States I guess, they call it the flyback transformer. Or maybe they call that in Canada too, I don't know. But we know we got the high voltage for the picture tube because the anode would charge up. And, I discharged the anode of the tube, in the correct way. You're supposed to use like a resistor and stuff. And I didn't show all that because I'm kind of out of hands. But, when you discharge the anode for the picture tube, you got to follow the instructions on how to do that. So your anode right there, 28 kilovolt. And you follow that line, and there's the high voltage comes out for the picture tube. So we know we got that, so that's working. But one thing that wasn't working was the LED for the on-off. So try to find that on a schematic. It was kind of tough, but I did find it. I'll find it again and I'll show you. I'm going to kick it off. Kick the camera off. Yeah, there it is right there. That's the LED for the on-off. And that powers up with 9 volts, but I don't have that. I don't have the light going on, and it should go on. So that makes me think maybe I ain't got the 9 volts. So now that 9 volt is like on this rail, and that powers up this chip here too. So if you follow the line down, here it goes down here. Find out where it gets that 9 volts. It goes this way. 9 volts. See? Now watch this. Here's 9-volt regulator. Has 8.9 volts here. And we have 13.9 volts going into that 9-volt regulator. Or supposed to. And then we got that tacked down to here. It's kind of like on the collector of that transistor here. Then we got like 12 volts coming out of there on that transistor. So we got 12 volts there, but this is the 9 volt here. So 9 volt, 13.9. You follow it down. I want to show you where that goes. You follow it. Still following it here. This is the line here. Comes down. There's 13.9 volts there. Keeps going that way. I'll follow that. And we got a cap here. C449, 1000 microfarad at 25 volt. Now that could give you a kick. You know, if these things ain't discharged, that could give you a good jolt. Because it's higher amperage than like what the picture tube would be. Even though the picture tube's 28,000 volts, you get some higher amp coming out of that cap. You know, 1000 microfarads. It's going to store a charge. And that could give you a good zap. You don't want to touch that unless that's discharged. Then you got like looks like a current limiting resistor. Then you got a diode. I wanted to show you this. See, here's the diode. Here's the diode. You follow that line, and it goes into the flyback. You see? So it's getting some voltages off the flyback, and what it does is the pulses come off of that flyback, and they go through this diode, and then they go through 13.9 volts, and they end up going to, you follow it all through, and it goes into this 9-volt regulator. And I tell you straight off, I ain't got the 9 volts because the power relay light don't come on, or the power light doesn't come on for on-off, and that's way up yonder somewhere. I can't find it anymore. But that's a clue. The clue is, why ain't I got the 9 volts? So I gotta look into that. And you know, it's like I got like caps on here too that be killing it. 422 and 421. There's something wrong with those. It could be killing what's coming out of the regulator, or the regulator could be intermittent, or there could be something wrong with the flyback too, or something wrong with that diode. So it's all things I gotta kind of look at, and I need to check out these caps too. That's what I need to do.